The All Progressives Congress has fixed fees higher than what the aspirants would earn as their legitimate salaries and allowances throughout the 4-year term in the offices they're gunning for. In fact, no Nigerian public official earns close to 100 million naira as legitimate income in 8 years. Now, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, which fixes the salaries and allowances of public officials, disclosed in a report published in 2020 that the Nigerian president earns 14 million naira annually, while his vice gets 12 million naira, which is equivalent to $28,000 pounds and £24 respectively. A minister like Dr. Ngige takes home roughly 7.8 million naira annually, so he will not earn what he will pay for his party's nomination forms, even if he's elected twice and serves for 8 years. It will also take Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who was also declared to run for president and is expected to pay 100 million naira to run in the APC primary, 8 years and 3 months salaries and allowances to buy the party's nomination forms for the position. In the same scenario, it will take Governors Yahaya Bello of Kogi and Dave Umahi of Ebonyi, who each earn 7.8 million naira annually, 12 years and 8 months to pay the same fees if they were to pay with their earnings. What then is the attraction for these aspirants? Now we have in the studio with us an APC stalwart, Dr. Umar Mustafa, to give us his perspectives on this. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak again.
Thank you very much.
All right, now let's start with this particular question. Now, recently, your party had a convention and elected leadership. What do you think, or what do you make of the leadership of the party so far?
Well, you've said it all. The party had a convention, and in the course of it, leaders were elected. And for them to have been elected, they must have had a good history of either leadership within the party hierarchy, or they must have contributed enormously in the course of strengthening the party. They must have a good number of followership and so on and so forth. So the process came in through, and I believe those who are supposed to be elected have been elected, and I think the party is proud of that.
But some have actually said that Abdullahi Adamu-led APC, is taking off on a wrong footing, especially with the nomination forms pegged at 100 million naira.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. The party needs to generate revenue with which, to manage itself. And such revenue can only come from the adherents of the party. If the party has decided that the cost of nomination forms should be as high as 100 million for the president and 50 million for the governor, I think one way to look at it is that they are trying as much as possible to see that enough revenue is generated for the party. Mind you, some of these contestants have no other way of contributing money to the party. Or let me put it this way, the party has no way of generating money from these contestants outside the framework of this arrangement. So if the party has done that to generate revenue, I don't think that's bad enough. Maybe the party wouldn't come out to say this is our reason for doing that. And secondly, the contestants may not have enough resources, to pay for such forms. I don't think it is logical for anybody who wants to be a member of House of Assembly and at state level will say he won't be able to afford 2 million naira for the expression of interest and whatever. Then how do you manage your campaigns? How do you move around? How do you carry out your daily activities before and during the campaigns? So I think it's one way of ensuring that those who have not only the support of their people, but also have the financial muscle to be able to move around and have access to the people, and ensure that they win their elections. So it's a two-way thing. The party needs resources. The people those contestants also need to be sure that they can pay this amount of money to be able to contest without hitches. So I think I'll look at it from these two perspectives.
Well, that decision actually has generated some criticism from party members who have actually come out publicly to express their displeasure about it. So were they not carried along when these decisions were actually made?
Well, you can't carry everybody along. It's a top management decision. It's a top party hierarchy decision. And if National Working Committee and the neck of the party decides that this is how much people should pay, I think we should look at it in good faith. Yes, I understand the economy is biting, things are difficult. But again, anybody can just come up and print posters and pest all over the place and say he wants to be this, he wants to be that. But to back it up with the necessary requirements in terms of resources, you know, it's one thing. So I think this is the beginning of it. This is a step in the right direction. Pay this amount of money if you are really interested in this office, and those who are interested in the office truly will pay. And those who were there just to ramp up stories and you know, raise dust here and there will fall by the wayside.
But some actually seem to believe that the party is deliberately shutting out, you know, the next generation of politicians, especially the youths, with the, you know, enormous amounts being pegged, you know, on nomination forms, you know, and interest forms.
I don't think so. It is a solid fact that be you an elderly fella or a young man, if you're really interested in party politics, that's how it is. The presidential system of government is a very expensive system, and if you are really interested in it, you need, even if you don't have the resources, you need, you know, some people to back you up. You know, so we can't rule out the possibility of, you know, spending money in a system like that. So I don't think it is intended, you know, specifically to push some people out and pave way for others to come in. It's just another way of running some checks and balances.
I think whether it's intended or not, at the end of the day, it still does. Because the average youth or the person that actually wants to run for these positions might not have that amount of money. And then will it not open the door for godfathers to still have a place in our politics if we say, okay, fine, I don't have the money, but I have the will to do this, but I need somebody to come and back me and give me that money to run? Wouldn't that pave the way for people like that?
Isn't that also a reality that we have godfathers in the system? It is also a reality that we can't run away from that. These are things we should, there may be ills which we should, you know, overcome over time. For now, it is part and parcel of the system. There's nothing you can do about it. There are people who stand behind with bags of money waiting for people to sponsor and so on and so forth, you know, go into some funny arrangements and so on and so forth. These things exist. It's not a lie.
No, but doesn't the policy of the, or doesn't this the party's decision now support that instead of maybe discouraging it, or you're being neutral on it?
No. I don't think any party, any reasonable party, will plan for such things to happen. Naturally, you know, people hang around and look at the shortcomings of policies and systems and then cash on it. So if this is one of them, I don't fault the party, and I also don't fault those who may want to cash on that. The thing is, the intention is a good one. The intention of the party is a good one. Yes, it is biting, it is difficult, it is hard, especially for those new young politicians that are coming up. But then the reality is that we have to find ways. Leadership is serious business. Leadership is not just, you know, an expression of interest that I want to be this, I want to be that. But should that be
dictated by the amount of money you have?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm only saying that you need money to soften whatever moves you make. There's not, you get married, and marriage comes with responsibility. It's not about you just bringing someone you love into your home. It has its own shortcomings. It has its own impediments. And financing your relationship with your wife and your children is also an impediment. But you will want to live with it. So it's the same thing with politics. If you want to be a politician, you either have the resources or you look for ways and means of getting the resources to cement your moves. So I think it is, the intention is the most important thing. The intention is good, the policy is good. Yes, we are also not ruling out the possibility that it is also going to be biting, especially for the upcoming young generation of politicians. But then, of course, they have to learn. You just don't breed young men from nowhere and kick the old ones out of it. No, no. They are supposed to learn from the old ones. No matter how bad the old ones are, they have something the young ones need, would learn from. So it's a process. So they need to calm down and look at the possibilities of, growing up. You will see someone, a young person, who has never had anything to do with politics. He comes up, he's interested in politics, and he wants to be a member of House of Representatives. They jump the gun. Why don't you start from where you think you can afford? Start from a lower level. Learn the nitty-gritties of politics. Socialize. Build relationships. Generate some form of revenue that will help you push your aspirations forward. But then you come from nowhere and you jump to higher positions and you expect the society to support you, to give you an open arms for you to succeed. I'm not against that, but what I'm saying is they need to take it easy. They need to take it lightly. And these things come, over time. You need time to overcome these impediments. And I think the system is, by way of training, telling them you need this, you need that, to be able to achieve this.
Now, some would actually say it is impossible for, candidates to, cough out 100 million naira and then not want to recoup it when they're being voted in. Now, isn't this the link between, party politics and corruption?
In a way, yes, but I wouldn't look at it from that perspective. Anybody who wants to be president of Nigeria must have been a success story. You don't just wake up from nowhere and want to be president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You must have been a success story. Tell me any one of those who are contesting today who hasn't been a success story before he came into politics. So they have their resources. They have their wherewithal. So 100 million for them is nothing to write home about. Their friends can generate that money. Their family can give them that money. A lot of corporations they've worked with, their own businesses can generate much more than that for them. So it's not a question of affordability. We're talking about leadership here. So people must sacrifice. And if 100 million that you are paid to the party is an instrument that we can call sacrifice, then so be it. So I think it is a question of affordability. Those who want to be president of Nigeria should afford 100 million. And the issue of recouping the money should not even come in. If you are a success story, this society must have helped you one way or the other. You've been taught, you've been nurtured, you grew up to be someone. Isn't that enough for you to pay back to society? And if paying that 100 million is one way of doing that, I think I'm home with that.
So paying the 100 million to the party is equivalent to paying it back to society?
What is the party going to use the money for? It's to run the affairs of the party. You ride on the party to become whatever it is you want to become. Doesn't the party have the right to tax you in order to pay its bills?
Well, the thing is, we all agree that it's a democracy, and everybody has a right to come out and vie for elective positions. I still come back to the question that this pegging of the money at this particular, doesn't it alienate a particular sector of people, a particular section of people from actually attaining that? We've had people who have come out from prison and run for president and successfully won. You understand? Do we expect somebody like that to have that kind of money at that particular point in time in his career or in his life?
It boils down to the same thing I said. The decision by any Nigerian, yes, it is constitutionally the right of every Nigerian to vie for whatever political office he wants to. It is there's no doubt about that. But then don't you also think that people will sit down and analyze that, am I fit for this office? And this fit, quote in quote, means you have the wherewithal, intellect-wise, you have the experience, you believe you have the support, and of course the finances to support your movements. It is an expensive system. The presidential system of government is an expensive system. Expensive for the government, expensive for the party, and of course expensive for the individuals vying for their respective political offices. So for you to even think of vying for a political office, these are the nitty-gritties you need to look at. And once you are convinced you have the wherewithal to vie for that office, nothing should stop you. So payment or pegging the amount, like I said, for 100 million for the presidency, 50 million for the governorship, 20 million for Senate, and so on and so forth, shouldn't be a problem. Are you telling me today in this country, all those vying for the position of Senate in this country cannot afford 20 million? Is that what I say? Mention one individual that you believe is worth being a senator and cannot afford 20 million. Just mention one. I'll take you up on that.
But when you say worth being a senator,
yeah, but he decides he wants to be senator.
Because I can stand on right now and say I am worth being a senator because I believe that I can be a senator.
Then you should have the financial muscles to back your movements. That's what I'm saying. You should have the resources to back up. So because you should have it at the back of your mind. The conceptual framework is that you should know that the system is an expensive system. The government of Nigeria has chosen an expensive system of government. It has chosen a democracy that is alien and expensive. And we have adopted the system of government. Yes, it is also it is important that we try as much as possible to limit these expenses, to bring them down, to meet our aspirations, to meet the size of our pockets and so on. But that doesn't change the fact that it is expensive. And once it is expensive, it means you need money to back it up at whatever level. And with that at the back of your mind, I think you should know that money will play a very important role in your success.
Okay, now agreed that electoral campaigns are costly and politicians, are tempted to actually spend so much money, for the campaigns and all that. But, a lot of people actually still believe that there should be regulations to impose ceilings on, election expenses and actually spendings of parties and also candidates.
We already have these policies. The federal government has pegged that you cannot spend such and such for such and such offices. But how do you ensure that that is implemented? How? You can ask the security agencies to run checks on people, what they have, how much they've spent, and so on. Reports can come in, but there's nothing you can do about it. That is the system. The system is asking for these expenditures. And people have to expend money. I give you a simple example. You want to run a campaign through 2 or 3 local governments. You have to have your DG, you have to have your supporters, you have to have your, the people around you. You have the nitty-gritties that you need, to ensure, the success of that trip. And when you get there, there will be expenditures. You may stay overnight. There will be hotel bills. There will be feedings, and so on and so forth. All these are expenses. Now, if you don't have these budgeted for, how do you accomplish your campaigns? So it's the entire system that is expensive. And I think we should, if we have to checkmate these things, we should take a step backward and look at, okay, what are some of the things that make this system expensive? Try as much as possible to curtail them. And then I think, to a certain extent, the expenses will come down a little bit. But as it is today, the laws are in place. You cannot expend so much. Have you heard of anybody that's been arrested and been sent to jail for spending so much on elections? In fact, the government in power will be the first to violate that rule. And not because they want to violate the rule, but because there's nothing they can do. Money has to be spent. You need to expend money to be able to achieve certain objectives, because that is what the system warrants.
Well, there are some from some quarters that actually believe that some of the aggrieved party members that are saying that they have been excluded, or a certain section has been excluded by this amount of money that has been asked to be for forms and expression of interest. That those section of people that actually have been carved out will, if they leave the party, or if they decide to form another movement, there are those that believe that they might erode into the party's structure and the party's followership and whatnot. Isn't the party afraid of something like that?
You see, give and take. It's not a question of moving from one party to another. It is the system.
Okay.
It is the system itself that is expensive. I'll give you a simple example. Pick one of the smallest political parties and say, okay, APC is expensive. APC has said we need, with 50 million naira, I think I can contest for anything in another political party. Or let me say 20 million. I can be president in another political party. I can be a presidential candidate in another party. But then it will be very, very difficult for you to compete with the bigger political parties. Because you need money. You need money to move around. You need money to do things they have not done, or things they are doing and do it better. All this needs funding. So without funding, it is absolutely difficult. Yes, you can go to a smaller political party, do the run. Yes, we have had so many presidential candidates in so many other political parties. Some of them, you can't even remember them. The reason is because their impact is very little. And do you know why their impact is little? Their impact is little because the level of the amount of money they spend is next to nothing. So they won't be able to do what a PDP presidential candidate can do. They won't be able to do what an APC presidential candidate can do. And as such, they will fall by the way. So it's difficult. It is the entire system that is, naturally expensive. And if you want to swim and be recognized, if you want to speak to be heard within the system, you also have to have the financial muscle.
Okay.
Unfortunately, anyway.
All right. Now, Adamu Shehu, a presidential candidate under the APC, and some Nigerians, have actually said that the exorbitant fees are tantamount to selling political offices to the highest bidder and is a reflection of the party's corruption-riddled body, which should entrust the country's anti-corruption agencies.
Well, it's an opinion. He has the right to say whatever he wants. Or any Nigerian has the right to say what he wants. I am saying what I want here. It's my opinion. So everybody has the right to say whatever he wants. The question is justification. Justify what you have said, with facts and figures. That's the issue. Are these things you are saying appealing to the ordinary mind? I mean, to the logical mind? We can't run away from the fact that the system is expensive. That is the ideological stand base. The system is expensive. And if it is by nature expensive, and we want to swim within this system, within in the course of this, our operations, within the operations of this system, then we should expect that there should be expenditures. And these expenditures may be affordable to some and may not be affordable to some. This is nature. So it's not a question of the policy supporting this, the policy paving way for this, and being detrimental to the other. I don't think so. I think what is expected of us is to learn from our mistakes. If it is our mistake that we picked an expensive system of government for Nigeria, then we should go back. If we still believe the presidential system is the best, yeah, but there are certain nitty-gritties that we can shed. There are certain things we can cap. There are certain things we can throw away. And in the process, the system will be less and less expensive.
All right. Thank you so much.